Hello, this is Dr. Nancy Trimboli with your Healthcare Arsenal podcast. This podcast is designed for that person who knows there's a better way towards health and wellness. They just don't know what that better way is. And my goal for you is that with each passing episode, you get closer to being your own best expert. Today, we'll be talking about stealth health, doing our stealth health secret intel where I read through my book, Stealth Health, subtitled Take Back Your Power and Unravel the Mystery of You. And I give you an update of what's going on with these aspects now and what was happening at the time and what's happened since. So we're at the portion of the book where I talk about the lies the system tells us. Now, remember, the system is the conventional medical model. It is the pharmaceutical industry, the food industry, the chemical industry, also the medical insurance industry, and unfortunately, academia and research get bunched up into it as well. And the system has been making us sick our whole lives. So the system, I first, to introduce you to the section, I introduce the fact that in stealth health, there is an underlying theme of an action movie with spies and with people trying to do good, and there is an evil group of people similar to what you find in a Mission Impossible movie or the Bourne Identity. And I bring up portions of those movies, little clips of those movies as we go through the book, because we are working under the radar. We are like spies on a mission, and we are unraveling a mystery, which is our own health issue. In any action movie, the good spy encounters villains along the way. And just like any great enemy, the facts are amended to justify controlling truth, whether it be the menacing superpower, a drug cartel, an overly protected, overly budgeted corporation with shaky ideals, or a government gone corrupt. Misinformation masquerades as truth. So I'm talking about the movie plot where the hero is trying to unravel the mystery, and there's bad forces at play, bad people. There's an overlying organization that is controlling the rhetoric and controlling the dialogue and controlling the information, distorting information. The last sentence, misinformation masquerades as truth. So remember, I wrote this book before 2020. The word misinformation was not as widely used as it is now, but here I am using it in stealth health. So we go on. Cashing in on aspirin. The first large-scale study to show a possible link between aspirin and the prevention of a second heart attack was published in 1974. The numbers were not statistically significant, meaning a direct cause and effect relationship could not be established. And I learned about statistic significance in research from Dr. Gilbert Welch, and this is one of the two books that I read leading up to my writing of Stealth Health. I'm going to come back to Dr. Gilbert Welch in a little bit. So I go on. Regardless of there being no direct cause and effect relationship being established between prevention of a second heart attack and aspirin, aspirin companies saw a great surge in sales due to this research study. What was not known at that time, or at least not openly discussed, was the effect of stomach bleeding from prescribing an aspirin a day, which almost completely negated the benefit of preventing a second heart attack. So I'm going to go on to give you the scenario in the corporate world. So let's say you are the president of a big aspirin company, and this research study is published that says, it's possible we're not sure because there wasn't really enough of a cause and effect relationship established, but it's possible that prescribing an aspirin a day will prevent a second heart attack. So now what happens is this president of this large aspirin company goes to all of his drug reps. Those are the people that whose job it is to go out to the medical doctor's offices, to buy the whole staff lunch and tell them about all the new drugs that are coming out, or even just tell them about the same old drugs. So what he tells his drug reps is, "Oh my gosh, amazing news! An aspirin a day will reduce the chance of a heart attack." Now he doesn't say it's a second heart attack, and he doesn't mention the side effect of blood thinning causing stomach ulcers. Who knows if it was known or not about it at the stomach ulcer thing at that time, but he goes and tells his drug reps, "Oh my gosh, you must tell all of your cardiologists, all of your general practitioner doctors to prescribe all their patients an aspirin a day." And guess what? Sales boomed. So I go on. So now, does he mention the bleeding ulcers that can occur from an aspirin a day? Well, fast forward from 1974 to the year 2000. And for some people, an aspirin a day may reduce the chance of a second heart attack and certain strokes because aspirin thins the blood. But thinning the blood also poses a serious and potentially deadly risk of stomach bleeding. Your stomach may be bleeding whether you know it or not. Are physicians still recommending an aspirin a day? Yes, even to those who have not had a previous heart attack. Even in 2018, Harvard Health Online newspaper outlines recent studies pointing to an aspirin a day may be no help at all. And over the years, it may have hurt a whole lot of people. And when I would teach this at my workshops at my office, I would teach a weekly workshop. I actually added it up one time. I think I taught 800 workshops over the years. And I would talk about this at the workshop. And every few weeks, I would have somebody raise their hand in my small group. And it would say, "I'm an RN. I work in the cardiac unit. I see bleeding stomach ulcers all day long. It's a huge problem." That would happen all the time. So maybe we shouldn't advertise take an aspirin a day as directed by your doctor anymore. It seems to be a controversial subject, but what a windfall of money for the investors of the big aspirin companies over the last half century. Now, I don't hear about this too much anymore, but I'm sure actually, I know it's still out there. The debate continues, and people, maybe even people like you, take an aspirin a day. Researchers have urged the medical community, even in 2014, to reevaluate the use of a daily aspirin because of its direct causal link with the deadly possibility of stomach bleeding. I looked, and I write in the book, I could find no evidence of any aspirin company paying damages to users. And there was never a direct link found to support the use of an aspirin a day, but it was pushed on us anyway. The direct evidence of an aspirin a day causing stomach bleeding ulcers was there. And this message is either ignored or diluted to our detriment. But it benefited whom? It benefited the system because it took people who were in perfect health, had not had a heart attack. They were put on an aspirin a day, which can and probably did lead to some of them getting bleeding ulcers. which caused the need for more medical intervention, more conventional care medical visits, and that is why we're learning about stealth health, because only the only thing that benefited was the system itself, taking well people and making them sick by just an aspirin a day, even a baby aspirin. We go onward. Vioxx, which you may or may not recall, but this was a drug that was introduced in 1999 as an arthritis pain medication. In 1 year, it was allotted $160 million in advertising. That was twice what Nike spent that year. And Vioxx was no better than another drug called Celebrex, which was currently on the market. Celebrex was only on the market for a few months, and Vioxx was no better. Vioxx was marketed on the premise of that clinical trials proved that there were fewer stomach problems associated with it as compared to Celebrex. After being on the market for 5 years, it had brought Merck $2.5 billion in revenue in 5 years. Oh no, that was in annual sales. After 5 years, it brought in 2.5 billion. But there was a problem with Vioxx. Horribly, within those 5 years, it had caused at least 88,000 heart attacks in the United States. 2/3 of those people reportedly died from the drug. My question at this point is, how did it get released to market? And this will really put a thorn in your craw. The executives of the company that manufactures it knew the dangers as early as the year 2000. And that's what I love about stealth health. All of the numbers that I talk about, I have footnoted. There's 101 footnotes in stealth health. I make a sidebar note here. Remember the blood thinning effects associated with the daily aspirin use? By a different mechanism, regular use of these types of arthritis pain medicines called COX-2 inhibitors have a similar effect. In this case, the clots that form after the blood thins causes the heart attacks and strokes. So with these medications, with aspirin, the aspirin thins the blood, which leaks through the stomach lining, which creates the ulcer, which creates the bleeding ulcer. In this case, this drug causes blood thinning, but then it starts to clot, and that's what causes the strokes and heart attacks. The Food and Drug Administration is responsible for approving drugs to be marketed to the general population. That's their job. Clinical trials are research studies organized by the pharmaceutical companies that demonstrate safety by having actual humans take the medication and prove that the drug is more effective than a sugar pill for a specific symptom. The new drug does not need to show it is better than any already existing one or a natural remedy. So think about that. The FDA approves drugs to go to market. The drug has to be proven to be better than a sugar pill, like better than just a little bit, not a lot, just by a percentage point. And the new drug does not have to be proven to be better than one on the market or an existing natural remedy. Participants in the study are subject to approval for the drug testing with a run-in period. The run-in period eliminates people who have had an adverse reaction to the drug or possibly just don't respond at all. Once written, the final research study does not reflect those non-responders or those who experience side effects early on. Also, the number of participants in the final drug testing is a small number relative to the numbers of people who take the drug after it's made available to the public. So they do the study on a few thousand people, and then when the drug is released to market, there's tens of thousands of people who are taking the drug, if not hundreds of thousands of people. This low number of participants combined with the run-in period may yield results overestimating the positive effects and underreporting negative effects. It's only when the drug hits the mass market that the real problems can show up. Now, I'm going to talk about an interview that I found online, and this is an interview with Dr. David Graham, and he was an employee of the FDA who pushed to get Vioxx withdrawn from the market. He was labeled a whistleblower regarding the Vioxx scandal and took big personal risks to follow through with his findings. Senior FDA officials attempted to discredit Dr. Graham and his work, smear his name, and intimidate him to keep him from testifying before Congress. Can you believe that? The guy works for the FDA. He's trying to do the best thing for the American public by saying, hello, problem, there's a problem. This drug needs to be withdrawn immediately. And he was bullied and he was intimidated and his name was smeared. His good work was discredited. In a candid interview in 2012 with Minette Laude, the lead investigator for Gary Null, radio host, author, and alternative medicine advocate, Dr. Graham explained how the FDA is unable to protect us from dangerous pharmaceuticals. He said, as currently configured, the FDA is not able to adequately protect the American public. When there are unsafe drugs, the FDA is very likely to err on the side of the pharmaceutical industry. Rarely will they keep a drug from being marketed or pull a drug off the market. A lot of this has to do with the standards that the FDA uses for safety. The FDA assumes the drug is safe, and now it's up to the company to prove the drug isn't safe. Hello, what? No incentive is in place for the companies to do things right. The clinical trials that are done are too small, and as a result, it's very unusual to find a serious safety problem in these clinical trials. Safety flaws are discovered after the drug gets to the market. Wow. So is the FDA there to protect us? No. Is the pharmaceutical company altruistically there to protect us? No. They're there to sell a product. That's what they're there to do. And unfortunately, the FDA supports them in their goal of selling products to U.S. citizens. Congress passed an act in 1992, and this is my commentary. Congress passed an act in 1992 that creates additional funding for the FDA to hire physicians and scientists need to ensure drugs could be approved to market faster. Problems inherent in quicker approvals are what might add to the possibility that severe adverse reactions appear as the drug is being used by the general public. After release, it is being used by hundreds of thousands of people rather than 1,000 specifically selected people. Dr. Graham continues in his interview. For the pharmaceutical industry, every day a drug is held up, meaning delayed from being marketed, it represents a loss of $1 to $2 million in process. Every day. The incentive is to review and approve the drugs as quickly as possible and not stand in the way of profit making. The FDA cooperates with this mandate to speed up drug approvals. Imagine if $1 or $2 million a day were dedicated to promoting true healthcare options. Imagine that. Now I have something to tell you about Dr. David Graham. And as I said, I have everything footnoted. This is footnote number 34, which I accessed this on the internet on June 11, 2019, and it was October 2012, Life Extension Magazine, an interview with Dr. David Graham. I downloaded the text version of the interview, which I still have. You can no longer find this on the internet. It does not exist on the internet. Just saying. Just saying. This is why we have to be stealthy. This is why we need to work under the radar. This is why some of the health practitioners I interview right here on this podcast do not share their name, their location, their face, their contact information. They don't have a website. This is why. All right. We're going to move on a little bit more here because I have another person who you won't find on the internet anymore either. Nutritional supplements. Most of us find it mind-boggling to walk into the supplement aisle of our natural food store. The grand scale of options available is only exceeded by the fact that none of the vitamin containers have any explanation of what good they might do. Prior to the 1990s, and I remember when I was first in practice in 1993, this was happening. This whole thing was happening. Prior to the 1990s, you could look at the supplement bottle on the shelf of the health food store to understand what conditions would benefit from taking that supplement. You could literally look at the bottle and say, oh, vitamin D, good for bone health, immune system, good for hormone balance. You could read it right on the bottle. That all changed in 1994 when the FDA waged war on nutritional supplements. During that time, nutritionists and health food store owners rallied their clients and customers to appeal to their legislators to fight the FDA from removing nutritional supplements from the shelves or to force vitamin suppliers to adhere to burdensome testing. The compromise was to remove any words from the product that would indicate how it would be used. All of this was under the guise of protecting the public. So that's what happened. That's why you have to research in other ways to find out what supplement you should take. That's why there's no information on the bottle. I'm sure you've wondered why. I start the next paragraph. On Mercola.com, which is Joe Mercola, he's actually an osteopath who is, he was around before Google. He had a website before Google existed. And his website created all these nutritional or nutritional supplement articles, alternative health practices. He started posting all of this holistic alternative care, healthcare model information. He was my go-to. And I mentioned Dr. Mercola multiple times in Stealth Health. Well, Mercola.com no longer exists. So I'll read you this paragraph and then I'll tell you what happened because this story involves me. All right, I read on. On Mercola.com, an article posted in 2012 states vitamin and mineral supplements accounted for 0 deaths in the year 2010, according to the U.S. National Poison Data System's annual report. Although now 2 decades old, a 1998 study published in the Journal of the American Medical Association estimated that 128,000 people per year were hospitalized from adverse drug reactions, of which 106,000 people died. The majority of these adverse reactions were properly prescribed, properly taken medication. So let's look at this again. In 1994, war is waged on nutritional supplements, which account for 0 deaths. At nearly the same time, while knowing that over 100,000 people die each year from them, pharmaceutical drugs are left to scamper on their merry way. Is it my imagination? Or is this illogical? So during 2020, and some of 2021, I was doing a lot of YouTube videos, just looking at the obviousness of what was going on at that time. Just and pointing out that the media headlines of the media headlines and the text didn't match, that the text of some very inflammatory articles didn't didn't match the research that they cited. And all I would do is on a video is I would go online and I would say, okay, here's the article, here's the inflammatory headline. It doesn't match the text of this. And then if you go to the research doesn't even say what the article is saying. I did, and this is stressful to me because it was so obvious, and to me, once I saw it, it's like I couldn't unsee the truth of it. Also, at that time, I did a video on what I called whistleblowers, and these are people who were saying, "Oh, wait a minute, people. Okay, hang on here. Wait a minute, this is not how it appears. Look at it this way." And Joe Mercola was one of those people. What he had reported, and I don't think I have it in Stealth Health, but I had done a video probably around 2018, maybe 2019, about vitamin D. And vitamin D, it was a research study that was on Mercola.com about they had done this study in a prison population. So all these people are in the same circumstances, same environment, same food. And a portion of the population was given a vitamin D supplement and the other portion was not. And the portion that got the vitamin D supplement had way less incidences of getting the flu. This is awesome information. So I did a podcast or a YouTube video on it way prior to what happened in 2020. And then you know what happened in 2020 where we were told it's crazy to think vitamin D is going to help you, or vitamin C, you're nutso, don't listen to that, that's misinformation. And I'm like, Hold on a moment. Dr. Mercola reported this and he's continuing to report it now. I did a YouTube video on it. My video was taken down and I was accused of misinformation because Dr. Mercola turned out to be one of what I forget what they call it, like the evil 11 or something, the proponents of misinformation during 2020. The life of his family, his life was threatened. They seized his bank accounts. He was unable to open new bank accounts. So he is now only available as a subscription plan only to get his information, which of course I am a subscriber. But this is what has happened since I wrote Stealth Health. And we need to still be stealthy about this. We need to still be our own best expert. We need to be logical. We need to find our first ally, which is our information sources that we trust, and rely on that. Because there's so many people out in the world that see what's happening. They logically see what's happening, like Dr. Mercola did. And he wants to just help you out. And yeah, for sure, he may at the time been selling nutritional supplements. Awesome, great. But the information that he has been giving us for the last 30 years is priceless. So I encourage you to find Dr. Mercola. He is on Substack, and subscribe. So that is the end of this portion of Stealth Health Secret Intel. And as always, with each passing episode of your Healthcare Arsenal podcast, I am hoping you get closer to being your own best expert. Bye for now.